So some authors have this innate ability to be able to draw us into any story and just make us laugh and cry or just go insane over it. These are the ones that become our favorites, even though sometimes we don't like the endings to them. Hello, my sister's keeper. You ripped my heart out, but I still love you. So what is it that makes these stories so lovable? They immerse you in the story. They put us right in the thick of things, and we forget that there's actually an author that's telling the story. Immersing your reader is different than just hooking them. It's keeping them hooked. These tips should be used throughout your novel to keep your reader plugging along and hopefully to evoke some kind of emotional response. Preferably one that doesn't involve you getting hate mail. So to help you get there, I've compiled 5 methods that I think will help you immerse your readers in your writing. If you want to be just as good as your favorite authors one day, then listen on. Number 1, use the force. Just kidding, I couldn't help myself. Number 1 is actually use the senses. How often do you go through your day and not use your senses? That's a toughie. Oh yeah, it's never. Unless you've got extenuating health-related circumstances, you use your senses every single day. So of course, you should include this in your writing. But don't feel constricted into using just the original 5 senses. What? There's more? You're probably familiar with see, touch, hear, taste, and smell, but what about proprioception, where you're able to tell where your body parts are relative to one another? You can use this when you want to portray that your character is dazed or unable to function properly. Perhaps they've fallen or they've been hit in a fight. Equilibrioception, which is responsible for you being able to keep your balance, can also be used in a similar way. Some other interesting ones include pressure, itch, hunger, and direction. Now, why am I throwing all these strange senses at you? So you can use them, of course. These are naturally occurring senses for all of us, so we shouldn't forget to use them in our writing. Making use of the senses enables the reader to get a better picture of what's really happening to your character. It brings a depth to your writing that can't be replaced with anything else. So if you're in the editing phase and you find that your work is a little detached, then go back and make sure that you're putting your senses to work. Number 2, learn deep point of view. This is a wonderful way of creating immersive writing. Deep point of view basically means that you limit the author intrusion and you let the character tell the story. It can usually accomplish in third person what writing in first person does, and allows the reader to forget that the author is even there. This allows the reader to establish a really strong connection to the story and makes them feel like they're living the journey along with the characters. Start with the mindset that you should never write anything down that your character already knows to be true. As an example, if you go to the grocery store, you're not going to jump into the brief history of the grocery store as you're shopping around. Even if it's pertinent to the story and it's something that your character knows, they wouldn't be thinking it in that immediate moment. Deep point of view is more in the moment, so reflection on weird things like this is a no-no. You should also jump at the chance to use words that are more meaningful to your character telling the story. This allows your characters to show through more on the page, since a war veteran couldn't be expected to describe a story in the same way as Miss USA, for example. They would use different verbiage and have a different cadence to their speaking. I particularly like this aspect because I'm working with multiple point of views in my work in progress right now, so I can still get the essence of first person without confusing my readers when I switch who is the I and me. But tread lightly. Remember to only change point of view during scene changes and make it obvious. This is referred to as head hopping and can give your reader metaphorical whiplash. If your audience has to reread a passage to make sure they know who is speaking, then something's wrong. This is a great item to ask beta readers to check out so you know whether or not you're guilty of this. If you want the readers to live in the world of your character, then you need to get in that world first, and then make sure you never leave. So don't say things like her brother Eric when we hope by now that she knows that her brother is named Eric. So to work around this, you can use things like introductions, flashbacks, or dialogue to actually establish that Eric is her brother. Your readers are smart and they like it if you leave it up to them to figure stuff out. Number 3, limit narrative tags. This is often grouped in with deep point of view, but can be taken as its own separate point if you're not quite ready to take the plunge into that style of writing. In principle, the less the reader thinks that they're reading a story, the more realistic it's going to be for them. And one thing that kind of distracts the reader from that is narrative tags. So narrative tags can either be dialogue tags to signal who is speaking, or filter tags so that the reader knows when the character is thinking. Both should be minimized so that your reader is never pulled out of the story. Words like said, asked, or wondered actually detract from your storytelling. It's a pause in the narrative that doesn't need to be there. Instead, you can replace dialogue tags with an action. For example, "Get out of my room, you brat," Evie demanded. Mark made a face at her. "Make me," he retorted. Now listen to the following with the narrative tags removed. "Get out of my room, you brat." Evie tried to shove her brother into the hallway, but his recent growth spurt made it difficult. "Make me." Mark contorted his face and stood his ground. I know, I totally should have been an actor. The latter reads a lot more smoothly and can allow the reader to get a better picture of what's going on. Think about the last conversation that you had. Did you pause and think about who said what? Or did you listen and take in their body languages and actions at the same time? This is what you want to emulate in your writing, so make it real and drop those tags. Number 4, build up to the climax. If the climax involves the death of your main character's mother, then you need to establish well beforehand why your character cares so much about her mother. And this starts well before the climax. Do this by making the relationship real so that the reader feels just as crushed as the character does when the mother passes away. Hooray for crushing readers! You need plenty of time to build up the foundation, so thank goodness you have 3/4 of a book to do it in. Remember the movie My Dog Skip or Marley and Me? I know these movies involve animals and it's much easier to get attached to animals, but bear with me. We all knew what was coming. Because hello, it can't end well. And through both movies, we were shown the bond that formed between the dogs and their humans. Their ups and downs and in-betweens brought them all closer in the end. Your story should do the same thing. In order to make your climax so climactic, the events that take place have to be important first to the character and then highlighted to the reader. An emotional impact on your reader, whether good or bad, is always what you should strive to accomplish in your writing. Number 5. Nix weak nouns and verbs. You never want your reader to get bored of your writing. Fast way to assure that they do is by using boring verbs and nouns. While your writing doesn't have to be 50 shades of purple prose, you should have some fun while you're adding a little character to the words themselves. Weak words are ones that aren't very descriptive to the situation at hand. Verbs and nouns are both great opportunities to create a more detailed mental image for your reader. If weak verbs are used, you're missing a chance at creating some tension and some strong emotion. But if weak nouns are used, then you're leaving your reader in a circle of hell with vague descriptions. The best way to get this point across is by using examples. If I use the word boy in a sentence, there's a lot of possibility as to what I could really mean. Depending on your reader, this could encompass an age gap from 0 to 25. But think about the words toddler, teenager, or infant. These words are much more descriptive and afford your reader a better picture with the same word count. This is also something that can be easily accomplished in the editing phase, after you realized you've said run 4 times in 3 pages. Instead of using the word run, try to use dash, trot, or scamper. They each have slightly different connotations and can make your writing seem a lot less repetitive. You should always look for ways to have the most impact with as few words as possible, and strong verbs and nouns are just the way to do that. So that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Wednesday. If you ever have any questions for me or suggestions for new videos, make sure to tweet me at Vivien Reis. Bye guys.